Everybody, what's up? We are going to do another reaction. It's been a minute since we've done any reaction videos, but you guys really did seem to enjoy them. And if you haven't noticed the last few days, I'm trying to get back to a regular stream of content that you guys enjoy and that I enjoy making. And I really do enjoy making these. It's a good opportunity for me to get to interact and sort of have discussions with some of the other content creators where our schedules maybe don't always line up, and it's a little bit more difficult to have these conversations. It's a way to get to kind of feel like we're engaging with each other. So this video popped up in my feed today, and I clicked it and thought, just started to watch it. And then I thought, you know what, why don't we just react to it blind and sort of have the discussion like we used to. And I don't know if we'll watch, well, this one's pretty short. I thought this video was longer for some reason. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we're gonna see what the issue is. I don't actually know what the issue is yet. I didn't even get that far into it before I had this thought,
Welcome to the video, guys. Thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your day, seriously, and joining me, talking a little bit of Raid on a daily basis here. I'm happy.
And of course, as always, the video will be linked below, so be sure and go check it out if you haven't seen it already. And then, you know, of course, we've liked it, and go engage with the video. Of course, that's
for you
guys. The rule.
I'm happy to have you in my life, or is it me in your life? I don't know, here in 2024. Anyway, guys,
I like that beanie.
Ever since, I don't know, the last few months, I guess, maybe a little bit longer than that, I just can't kick this feeling. But I'm high on believing that you're in love with me.
Let's go, dude.
Chaka, ooga, ooga. Anybody? No?
You've been watching way too many Lifetime movies.
At least
anyway,
me.
This feeling about power creep in the game, and I'm talking about not mythicals, right? Of course, I click in the one freaking faction that doesn't have a mythical yet. Not mythicals. I don't have a problem with mythical champions. I kind of like mythical champion. Not this dude. This dude sucks.
So that puts us in the same boat.
Because his mythical is on a cooldown that's a secret skill.
I can prove that I am different.
Well, that's stupid.
Editor's going ham, dude.
I don't have a problem with mythicals. I don't think they've severely power crept the game personally. I'm cool with that.
I'll agree with that. They have not had the impact that I really thought they would have. I guess maybe they're also very hard to come by. But they didn't really, I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's any meta involving any of them, which is good. In some ways, that's good. You don't want to be too excluded from what's going on. I don't really know how they feel. I haven't even really talked to a lot of people about how the mythical champions feel. I know some people in my Discord have pulled them, but beyond that, I don't hear much about them.
I think it's interesting and fun and new, right? I really do.
Agreed.
The primal shard fiasco and the cost and all that baloney aside, I do like the mythical champions being added to the game, along with mythical artifacts, blah, blah, blah. But the way I'm thinking is actually going down in rarity. What's been bothering me, and I really want to make this video, I want to send it to Plarium, even though I know you're watching. What's up, Plarium?
Do not talk to me. I'm not here.
I really want to send it to Plarium, but first and foremost, I want your freaking feedback, guys. I really value it because I've said this before on the channel. I never want to talk about stuff or advocate for stuff that the majority of you guys aren't behind me, right? I want the Ash Army.
Where are we going here? What is this?
I want you
the Ash holes. Did he say Ash holes?
Not Ash, bro. No, majority of you guys aren't behind me, right? I want the Ash Army. The Ash holes.
Yeah, dude.
I want you all with your pitchforks behind me, or I want you to tell me, nah, Ash, bro,
that's pretty good, man.
That, bro, no. Anyway,
is that new? Has he been saying that for a while? I feel like I've never heard that. That's pretty good.
Now, before I say my concern, I do want to give a quick counter argument.
Ash holes.
I've said it a million times before. I know you guys are kind of torn. Half of you guys disagree with me, and that's cool, right? But Cursed City, there are new utility for obviously epic champions specifically, right? Which is really cool. Some rares too, right? So there is new reasons to explore champions that heretofore we haven't ignored. We have not spent time on. They've been Vault Guardians. But the truth is I don't think that Cursed City and Secret Rooms in Doom Tower are enough content to provide a use case for really hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of champions in the game. And no, I'm not asking to see a buff to every single epic. I guess in a roundabout way I am, but I don't want a bunch of buffs. That's not what it's about. I think that this game has severely power crept epic and rare champions. I mean, when I started playing this game, rares were something to actually discuss, right?
Yeah.
I haven't even released a like best rares released video or anything like that, because the truth is now rares are less and less compelling. There's still a few good ones, don't get me wrong, right? There absolutely are.
I know it's not me.
But they're not releasing.
Yeah, I agree with that too, and that's generally I run into a problem with a lot of these games. It was a big deal for me with Awakened Chaos era, where they had a really good base group of rares, and then from launch never added another one. I don't know if they have. I haven't looked at Ace in a long time, but that was one of the things that I discussed with them a lot. I've got extensive DMs with them going, you really got to do something about the rares, because they just kept adding legendary, 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 legendary. And it's like, there's more going on in the game than legendaries. There's more people playing the game. You can't just keep stacking legendaries. And to their credit, Plarium has done a pretty good job of adding new rares and epics regularly. And there is still a good core group of rares. But for the most part, I agree with what he's saying. There's not really a lot of new rares coming out that's changing anything. So,
Super
yeah,
compelling
agreed.
rares anymore, right? They're releasing a lot of epics. But I just want to cut to the chase here. It all comes down to one thing.
They have slowed down.
Empowerment. That's where I'm going here. Empowerment.
Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned it in passing here, I think, on some collabs as well. But the
I have as well. This has been an issue for me for a while. I don't know if I've made a specific video about it. So in that regard, I guess it's fair to say nobody's talking about. But yeah, I think semi-regularly, it's probably peppered throughout my Free to Succeed videos, where I get real gripey, because why not? Why not let us empower them? What's it really going to do?
The Guardian Ring, empowering champions, it's really cool. But between empowering legendaries A, releasing a bunch of amazing legendaries B, and releasing mythical champions C, they have severely power crept epic champions in this game to a degree that I think personally, if it's unhealthy from my dirty pay to win disgusting whale Kraken account, that it's got to be more harmful for the majority of players out there in the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a good point. That maybe I haven't thought that far into it. I've just been annoyed that we can't do it. But that's an interesting extra level of depth to it. They've adding empowerment for legendaries, because it used to be there were legendaries and epics, and there were some epics that were better than legendaries. But adding empowerment to just legendaries, and then they have been going ham lately with the legendaries they're adding. They've been adding some really good ones. And then again, mythical champions. He's right. Epic champions just kind of got pushed way down. And if you could empower them, it's not, all it would do is close the gap. It's not like it would break the game. I wonder if they're sitting on that. Maybe they're sitting on that for a big update. Maybe when they need some good press, you know what I mean? Maybe they've already decided it's going to be a thing, and they're just waiting on another moment where they need some good press, and they're like, okay, everybody can empower epics now. Leave us alone.
Players, the free-to-play players, or just the majority of players everywhere. Why can't we empower epic champions?
Definitely.
Today on Eyewitness Corey, a probing expose of the plight of the middle child. Stay with us. Party, necklace, new dress, all for your daughter.
Bye, so
Dude.
everybody hates you.
It's a
Who is his editor? His editor is so cultured. The references that whoever his editor is pulls for these videos are wildly obscure. That's so good.
massive power creep, guys. It really is. Only empowering legendaries allows there to be this massive divide between what legendaries can provide and what mythicals can provide and what epics can provide. Now, listen, I'm going to compare the game really quickly to Watcher of Realms. But moreover, like I'm comparing it only for inspiration and show you guys what things could be like. Show Plarium what things might be like.
Watcher of Realms is fantastic, by the way. If anybody has been on the fence about it, I'm sure you've heard of it by now. If you've been on the fence about checking it out, I was on the fence about checking it out for a long time and finally decided to do it. And man, it's really good. It's really, really good.
In a world
Well worth a
where
look.
epics matter a lot more than they currently do. Sure, there's still good epics. I'm not saying that, guys. But this is what I would love to have, both for empowerment legendaries and for epics in the game. I think the system here of empowerment is awakening. So when you see awakened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is, in this game, the mechanics are like awakening. And again, to be clear here, I love Raid. I actually play a Raid more than Watcher of Realms. I think Raid is a better, more polished game at this state of the game, but that doesn't mean we can't learn from these other titles as well,
For
right?
sure.
Now listen, both epics and legendaries and even rares can be empowered in this.
For sure, Raid can learn from the other games. I'm not sure I agree. Watcher is fresher. Watcher, I think, can get away with a little bit more because they're newer. So ultimately, at the end of the day, yeah, I guess I would agree. Raid is more polished and refined. But Watcher's very new. Watcher hasn't even been out a year yet, I don't think. So we'll see. We'll see how they do. Again, I've talked a little bit about this, but these mobile game developers, they come out with these games that are really good for the first 6 months, and then it starts to get weird. So we're kind of at that point now with Watcher where it's like, if it's going to start to get weird, it's going to start happening now. And we'll see what happens. But I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great game.
But empowerment, sure, it can add stats. Awakened is empowerment, right? But they also add cool things, right? They enhance abilities, not on every ability, but Awaken 1, 3, and 5 usually has, like, look at the Immortal Wrath duration plus 3 seconds, recovers 50% HP at the end of Immortal Wrath's duration, which is like the ultimate ability, right? So I think this
That would be dope if they added
is
something
a
like that.
really freaking cool system. So I pulled 3 duplicate copies of Lasir here, so I have an Awaken 3. They call them A3 in this game, right? Some of them are just stat bonuses. But so there's 2 things that I want you guys to take away from this, and this is why I wanted to show this, right? Is A, this is allowed in Watcher of Realms. This is allowed even though when they release new OP legendaries and mythicals and whatever, new heroes, new champions, it allows at least the epics and lower rarities to retain some really awesome value. Moreover, and this is
some of them are
coolest part,
necessary.
just
even.
like any other game, it's way harder to get your hands on.
They're necessary, but it's not. They're not really that hard to come by. I think maybe because the champ pool is just so small. Holy cow, bro! Jesus Christ, Ash. That is ridiculous. God. That's gross, man. That Anithwi is gross. I love me some Anithwi, dude. And he's plus 4.
Rarity champions in Watcher.
Plus 4 Anithwi. God.
But the epics are way easier to get duplicates of. Ergo, we can upgrade our epics or fully awaken our epics, fully empower our epics in that game, and get a lot more utility out of an A5, a fully empowered epic, than we can, you know, maybe a non-empowered legendary. It really allows for this beautiful power balance between epics and legendaries to exist in the game.
That is a big thing I'll say too about Watcher is it's pretty well balanced. There's a couple of issues lately with some of the champs they've added more recently that definitely need some attention. But for the most part, there is a pretty good sense of balance. And that thing he's talking about where, like, if you've got an A5 epic, they might be better than your unawakened or A1 legendary. But over time, if you pull a couple dupes and get that legendary back up to like A3, A5, it'll surpass. So there's this constant kind of back and forth that can exist because the balance is pretty tight in the game for the most part. Again, there's some niche examples of champs that you need for niche things, but they're not as hard to come by, I don't think, as they are in Raid. But Raid has a much more vast champ pool at this point too. So it's, you know, it's like I said, it's the difference in a game being less than a year old and
love to see
a game being 5
things.
years old.
The nights are the hardest.
And Raid Shadow Legends here in 2025.
We got it, Jay. One more year.
Because I want to keep all epics somewhat relevant. Restrictions are actually really cool, and hats off to the Raid developers. Again, I think that Cursed City and Doom Tower were the best updates in the history of Raid. So they've been killing it. You know, the new champions, the daily logins. I think it's off to a great start this year. But
Agreed.
I have to say this, guys, and I want to hear from you. Do you agree or disagree? The 2 things that I want really badly, I think it would make such a profound impact on so many accounts in the game, and it would really keep epics in line with all the new amazing releases and mythicals and legendaries, right? But not empowering epic champions, even for just the stat bonus, to me, it's creating a bigger and bigger divide that gets
Yeah,
even
I
bigger
agree.
every, month or week or whatever, every day in this game, So I want to see, ideally, epic empowerment. Just allow us to empower an epic, get the stat bonuses. Richtoff, yeah, sure.
And honestly, even rares. I don't see what the downside to it is, especially if it's just given stat bonuses. All you're doing is closing that gap and keeping people being able to use the rares and epics. So then we get to the point where it's like, well, why aren't they doing it? Because they want legendaries to be more necessary, and we can't certainly put that past them. But it's kind of a bummer that it's like it's always just that easy to go there with Plarium. I want to see them start making different decisions so that it stops being so easy to just go because they're greedy, and that always being a valid answer. You know what I mean? I don't see how this could be bad for the game. It's just that it doesn't break anybody. It's stat boost for epics and rares. Just keeps them a little bit more usable as the game progresses. It just seems inevitable. It seems like it's got to be coming. I can't imagine why it wouldn't be coming at some point. I just don't know why we don't have it yet.
Why not? I use them in a poison combust team anyway, right? I would love to see that. But the coolest thing is if they could take the entire empowerment system and really upgrade it. It's a two-part question for you guys, because there is some downside that I want to mention on allowing upgraded legendaries, especially, or mythicals or empowered ones, to have extra skills like one less cooldown on whatever. That could make the power differential even further. That could even further the divide.
So if they were going to do that, they would. I feel like they would need to let us empower epics, and again, I think rares first, and then change the system so that it's more similar to Watcher, where you get this the skill. The perk bonus. I mean, they could do stuff like your leader skill gets stronger. You know what I mean? Arbiter, instead of, what does Arbiter do? 30% speed? Is it 30? They could bump that up a few percent. They could buff leader skills, buff passives, buff cooldowns, buff skills. Maybe something that was an 85% chance booked is 100% booked if you get them to a certain level of empowerment. There's a lot of things they could do with it that would be really interesting.
So I guess I will refine my recommendation based on that, now that I say it out loud, right? I would love to at least have epic empowerment. Listen, I agree, if you give all legendaries massive more abilities, I should say, from the Awakening, maybe that goes too far in a game like Raid, where we already have the precedent that we're under. But I would at least, I think it's imperative, man, if for the health of all players in the game, I would love to see epics be able to be empowered. It's not a lot to ask, is it? Is it? Anyway, guys, let me know how you feel in the comments below. I can make this a 20-minute video just rambling and ranting, but I've already done enough.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with that. Again, like I said, I've brought it up a couple times. I don't think I've ever made a specific video talking about it, but I just don't. It's one of those things I just don't see a downside. I really don't see how it is bad for any part of the game. We basically just kind of pivot to the way that the balance used to feel. And there's always been balance issues in Raid, right? But he's right, it has gotten worse. That gap has gotten bigger, and I had not really considered the gap so specifically anyway. Maybe in a roundabout way I've kind of talked about it, but all that would do is close the gap a little bit. And my epics that I'm using still feel fine, you know what I mean? I still do what I do, but I'm also not breaking into the later content. I've kind of stopped at stage 20 on all my dungeons. I'm not trying to do hard mode dungeons. I'm still working my way through Doom Tower, Cursed City. I'm doing what I can, but my account's still kind of young for that. So it's not like I have a ton of depth. So it's not impacting me super heavily right now, but it is. I should
for that today, have I, for one day.
Give him a better pause face there. But even still, and I've already got some epic dupes. I could already be getting a benefit from that if I wanted to. Now, granted, I still got to fill up my faction guardian and all that stuff, but we'll get to a point where those are full, and then I'll start having dupes, and I could start to do it. So it's definitely later stuff that I'm super concerned about for my account. But as far as the state of the game, and the fact that people do play this game for a long time, I think that would be a great move. And if they implemented it with a revamp, like he's talking about, and sort of a Watcher of Realms type system where it could affect the champion in different ways, I think that would be really interesting. I think it would add even more depth, and I think if they did it right, or even mostly right, it could be really fun. I think that could be really fun and interesting for the game. So yeah, I'm in full agreement. I don't disagree with anything he said, and again, I just don't see a downside to it. So yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up here. Let me know what you guys think. If maybe there's a downside that I'm missing. If you think there's a downside to it, I would be interested to hear it. If you've got other stuff that wasn't talked about here, you've got other ideas for that system, how it could be filled in more or adjusted to be a little bit more reasonable, I'd be interested to hear that stuff as well. And then, as always, Ash's video is going to be linked below, so be sure and go show him some love. And I guess we'll get out of here. Appreciate you guys watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya later.